On the edge of nowhere, in a snow-covered town forgotten by time, a broke carpenter named Eli Turner lives a quiet, honest life, until fate brings a bride in a tattered wedding dress to his doorstep. Stranded, shaken, and refusing to explain why she ran, Lena Vale is everything Eli isn't. Rich, famous, and hunted by headlines. All he can offer is soup, shelter, and silence. But sometimes that's more than enough. What starts as an awkward night under a leaking roof becomes a soul-deep connection neither expected. As the storm outside rages, so do the truths they've both buried. His about loss and loneliness, hers about the gilded cage she escaped. They share one unforgettable day building something simple. A bench, a moment, a feeling that tastes like home. Then just as suddenly as she arrived, her jet lands, literally, in his backyard and Lena is gone. But love doesn't vanish with the morning frost. And when the world learns the truth about the man who gave without asking, everything changes. The wind howled down the snowy road like a wolf denied its prey. Eli Turner tightened the collar of his threadbare jacket and adjusted the straps on the firewood slung over his back. He was halfway home when he spotted her, a figure stumbling along the roadside in satin and lace, dragging the bottom of a wedding gown through dirty slush. He blinked. Once, twice. Still there. She didn't look at him. Her arms hugged herself tightly, lips trembling from cold or something worse. Her heels were broken. Makeup ran down her cheeks like war paint after a battle lost. "Hey," Eli called out, stopping a few paces ahead of her. "You okay?" No response. She kept walking. More like floating. Like a ghost in white. He dropped the firewood onto the snow. "Look, I don't want trouble. Just say something if you need help." That made her pause. She turned slightly, revealing bright hazel eyes and skin gone pale from the cold. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "I need somewhere warm." That was all it took. Eli motioned toward the tree line. "My place is not far. Just a cabin. No frills, but there's heat, dry clothes. You can call someone." She nodded slowly, either out of trust or sheer exhaustion. He picked up the firewood again and led her through the path he knew by heart. Branches scraped overhead. Snow fell in clumps from the trees like nature holding its breath. His cabin came into view, a sagging structure with patched windows and a crooked porch. He unlocked the door and nudged it open with his boot. "Careful with the step," he said. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and old coffee. A wood stove glowed dimly in the corner. He set the firewood down and stoked the flames. The woman hovered near the door, dripping onto the worn floorboards. "Here," he said, pulling an old blanket off the couch and handing it to her. "Dry off. Sit. I'll put on water." She moved like someone used to giving orders but unsure how to accept kindness. Still, she sank onto the couch and wrapped herself tight. "I'm Eli," he offered over the sound of the kettle. She hesitated. "Lena." Silence hung between them like smoke. You run from a wedding?" he asked gently. Her eyes flicked toward the window. "You could say that." He didn't push. The kettle whistled. He poured hot water over a tea bag and brought it to her, setting it on the table with a cracked mug. She stared at it, then up at him. "You live here alone?" "Yeah. Long story." She picked up the mug with both hands, fingers trembling. "You're not going to ask why I'm dressed like this? I figure you'll tell me if you want." Her mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "You're the first person I've met in a long time who didn't want something from me." He shrugged. "I've got nothing to sell, nothing to gain." A log cracked loudly on the stove. Lena jumped. Eli pulled a chair from the kitchen table and sat across from her. "Are you in trouble?" She considered that. "Not the kind you're thinking of. Just the kind where you say, 'I do,' and realize you really don't." He gave a soft laugh, more air than sound. "Been there. Except I didn't make it to the altar." "Lucky you." They sat in silence again, broken only by the crackle of fire and the ticking of an old wall clock. Finally, Lena looked up. "Why'd you help me?" Eli leaned back in his chair. "You looked like you needed someone who wouldn't ask questions." Her voice went soft. "I didn't know people like you still existed." "Well," he said with a tired smile, "we don't make the news." That got a real smile out of her. Lena awoke to the scent of wood smoke and something faintly sweet, maybe maple. It took her a moment to remember where she was. The cabin. The snow. The man with kind eyes who hadn't asked for explanations. She sat up slowly, still wrapped in the blanket. Her wedding dress was crumpled on the back of the nearby chair, looking more like a costume than a memory now. A clean flannel shirt and faded sweatpants were folded neatly beside it. A note rested on top in a clean, simple scrawl. Figured you'd be more comfortable. Coffee's on the stove. She changed quickly, grateful for the warmth of the borrowed clothes and the unspoken generosity. When she stepped into the small kitchen, Eli was by the window, shirt sleeves rolled, hands calloused and busy sanding the leg of a broken chair. "You're up," he said without turning. "Hope the clothes fit." "They do. Thank you." He nodded, still sanding. She walked toward the counter. "You fix furniture for a living?" "Fix, build, patch, repair. Whatever someone around here needs. Or can pay for." She sipped the coffee. It was strong, bitter, perfect. "No offense," she said, "but you don't strike me as the small-town handyman type." He finally looked at her, amused. "And you don't strike me as someone who's usually wandering country roads in a wedding dress." "Touché." She leaned against the wall. "I grew up in Chicago. Prep school, Ivy League, the whole manicured path. Then I met Asher Vail, tech mogul, billionaire, empire builder. My parents adored him. The world did too. And for a while, so did I." "You don't anymore," Eli said quietly. "No," she whispered. "Not after I realized I was just another acquisition. Something he could show off in glossy magazines and scripted interviews." Eli's hands paused on the wood. "I tried to convince myself it would be okay. That I could adapt. But when I saw myself in the mirror, in that ridiculous dress, I didn't see a bride, I saw a hostage." "So you ran." "I ran." A long pause followed. Outside, snow drifted gently past the windows like time moving in slow motion. He set the sandpaper down and wiped his hands on a rag. "Good for you." She looked up, startled. "You don't think I'm insane?" He shrugged. "Maybe a little. But sane people stay in cages. Brave ones climb out." A silence fell between them again, but it was a different kind this time. Comfortable. "Sure. I should be scared," she admitted. "Of what's next? Of what he'll do when he finds out." "Are you?" She thought about it. "Not right now." "Then maybe you're where you're supposed to be." The afternoon passed slowly, like the melting snow outside. Eli worked on the chair. Lena explored the few books he kept on a shelf, mostly manuals, one tattered novel, and a volume of Robert Frost poems with scribbles in the margins. Dinner was soup from a can reheated on the stove. Eli apologized for the lack of options. Lena insisted it was the best thing she'd tasted in weeks. "I haven't eaten alone in 3 years," she said, stirring her bowl. "There's always staff or press or someone checking my lipstick." "Sounds exhausting." It was. Or maybe I just let it be. Eli didn't respond. He simply ate slowly and quietly. She appreciated that more than he probably realized. When the sun dipped below the horizon, Eli lit a pair of candles. The power had flickered earlier. "Outages weren't uncommon here," he explained. "You get used to it," he said. "Makes you appreciate silence." "I'm starting to," Lena admitted. They sat in the living room, her on the couch, him in his armchair. She noticed the walls, simple wood paneling, a few framed photos. One showed a younger Eli with a gruff older man who had his same eyes. "Your dad." Eli nodded. "Taught me carpentry. Taught me how to survive. We didn't have much." "I can tell." He smirked. "No offense," she added quickly. "None taken. This place isn't much, but it's mine. Built every inch of it. That chair you're sitting on? Salvaged it from a junk pile." She ran her fingers along the armrest. "It's solid." They were quiet again, watching the firelight flicker. Then, unexpectedly, Lena asked, "Have you ever wanted to run away from your life?" Eli stared into the flames. "Every day. Until I built a new one." Lena folded her legs underneath her. "What happened?" "Loved someone who didn't know what love was. Gave her everything, and when I had nothing left, she left too." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. If she hadn't, I wouldn't have ended up here." She looked around. "Alone." He met her eyes. "Not tonight." The room grew still. Not with tension, but with something deeper. Unspoken understanding. Fragile trust. Outside, the wind picked up. Inside, warmth lingered in the silence between them. By the time night fully arrived, the wind was howling hard enough to rattle the windows. Eli added another log to the fire, now the only source of light and heat in the cabin. The power had gone out an hour ago, and Lena hadn't said a word about it. She sat cross-legged on the couch, wrapped in the same thick blanket, her face illuminated by flickering firelight. Outside, the storm roared like an angry god. But inside, the quiet was almost sacred. You get many blizzards like this? She asked. Winter means up here. Storms don't ask for permission. They just come. Lena watched the flames for a moment, then turned to him. So, what do you do when you're trapped like this? Read. Whittle. Think. That sounds lonely. It can be. But I'd take real loneliness over a fake company any day. She nodded slowly, her fingers tightening around the edges of the blanket. I used to have a different life too, Eli said. His voice was calm, but there was weight in it. Back in Atlanta. Contractor. Good jobs. Good money. Girlfriend who liked the idea of me more than the man. What happened? Economy tanked. Project stopped. She left when the money dried up. I'm sorry, Lena said again, and this time it felt heavier, less polite, more personal. Don't be. Losing everything makes you figure out what matters. He sat down across from her, leaning forward with his arms on his knees. The fire crackled between them. I guess that's what I'm doing, Lena said quietly. Figuring out what matters. Without the headlines. Without the pressure. Just being. That's a good start. Lightning flashed through the window. Thunder followed. Lena flinched. God, I hate storms. Eli stood. Come on. She hesitated. What? I want to show you something. He led her to the back of the cabin, to a small side room she hadn't noticed before. He opened the creaky door and gestured inside. It was filled with tools, wood planks, carvings, an entire life of quiet creation. This is where I come when the storm's too loud. She stepped in slowly. A half-finished wooden bird sat on the workbench. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's not done. Neither am I, she said. They stood there for a while, saying nothing, just breathing in the scent of sawdust and storm. Two broken people, finding comfort in each other's unfinished pieces. They returned to the fire, the storm raging louder than before. The wind howled like it was trying to break inside, but the cabin held strong, just like Eli. He handed her a small flask. Only thing I keep for emergencies. She took a sip. Warm, smoky whiskey burned her throat, then her chest. Emergency approved. Eli sat beside her this time, not across. Not too close, but not far. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Lena said, surprising herself. He raised an eyebrow but didn't hesitate. When I was a kid, I used to lie about where I lived. Told my school friends I had a real house with real stairs and a backyard. Truth was, we were in a truck cab for 6 months. My dad made it feel like a mansion, though. Lena exhaled. That's not a lie. That's survival. Your turn. She swallowed, the firelight dancing in her eyes. I almost didn't run. What stopped you? You. He stared at her, stunned. Me? You. Or someone like you. Someone out there who might remind me what real looks like. What enough feels like. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Eli said, You're not what I expected. I get that a lot. I don't mean the money or the dress or the headlines. I mean you. You're still here. And you didn't have to be. I'm still figuring out why I am, she said. He looked at her, steady and kind. Maybe you're just not done running yet. She turned toward him, something shifting in her gaze. Or maybe I've finally stopped. Their eyes locked. The fire cracked behind them. And then, slowly, carefully, he reached for her hand. She let him. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was something more sacred. Safety, presence, understanding. I'll sleep out here, he said softly. You take the bed. She nodded, voice thick. Thank you, Eli. He stood, hesitated, then walked to the stove, spreading an old quilt and laying down beside it. Lena remained on the couch a moment longer before rising. She stopped at the bedroom door, glanced back once and whispered, Good night. Night, he said, already half asleep. Outside the storm screamed. Inside, for the first time in a long while, two people slept with a little less fear. By the time Lena woke, the storm had passed. A golden hush blanketed the cabin, light filtering through the window like a whispered promise. Snow still piled high outside, but it had lost its menace, just soft mounds glowing in the early sun. The fire had died down, and so had the quiet rhythm of Eli's breathing from the other room. He was still asleep, his broad frame curled in front of the stove, arms folded under his head. Lena stood silently for a moment, watching him, heart tangled in confusion. She wasn't supposed to feel anything here. Not safe. Not comfort. And certainly not this. She tiptoed toward the kitchen. The old rotary phone hung near the pantry, faded yellow, a relic of a world before hers. She hesitated before lifting the receiver and dialing the number she knew by heart. It rang twice before a tired, familiar voice answered. Lena? The voice cracked. Oh my God, where are you? Keep your voice down, she whispered. I'm fine. Her assistant, Claire, immediately began panicking. Asher's in meltdown. The media's gone nuclear. Your parents are. I need you to send the jet. Tomorrow. Not to the airport. There's a field out here. I'll send you coordinates. Claire hesitated. You're not coming back now? No, Lena said, staring at Eli's sleeping form. I want one more day. Eli stirred not long after, blinking groggily at the morning light. You're up early. Didn't sleep much, she replied, pouring him a mug of coffee. He stretched and groaned. Cabin floor will do that to you. I slept like a rock, she lied. They ate breakfast in silence, canned peaches and toast. Eli offered to take her on a walk once the sun was higher, but Lena had another idea. I want to help, she said. Help? With whatever you're working on. Carpentry. You said you build things. Eli looked at her skeptically but nodded. All right. I was planning on rebuilding the porch bench. I'm good with my hands, she said and immediately blushed. I mean, I learn fast. He grinned. Okay, city girl. Let's see what you've got. They bundled up and headed outside. The snow crunched under their boots as they made their way to the half-collapsed bench by the porch. Eli handed her gloves and a sanding block. Start with this. Smooth the slats. Work with the grain. She knelt beside him, copying his movements. They worked in tandem, silent at first, then filled with easy chatter. She told him stories of her awkward boarding school years. He shared tales of traveling across states in a broken-down pickup with his father, chasing work in warm nights. At one point, their hands touched over a screw and neither pulled away. You know, Eli said, watching her drive a nail with surprising precision, you're not half bad at this. Lena smirked. Coming from a professional, that's almost a compliment. By afternoon, they had most of the bench framed. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair pulled into a messy ponytail, and her laughter sounded like something new, unburdened, real. You ever think of building furniture full-time? He teased. Have you ever thought of teaching billionaires how to breathe? They both laughed. Later they took a break, sitting on the porch steps, drinking hot cocoa. Lena leaned back against the cabin wall and sighed. This is the most honest day I've had in years. Eli didn't say anything, but his eyes softened. She turned to him. Can I ask you something kind of personal? Shoot. Why haven't you left this place? Tried again in the city? He stared out at the trees. I used to think leaving meant progress. But out here, everything I build stays built. Doesn't get bulldozed for a shopping center or left to rot in some developer's fantasy. There's peace in that. Lena looked at him, really looked. You don't just fix wood. You fix people too. He chuckled, a little flustered. Only the ones who stick around. She stared at the bench, only half finished. Something about it felt symbolic. Of them, of time running out. Tomorrow the jet will land. And everything would change. But today she had wood dust on her sleeves and someone to laugh with. And for the first time in forever she didn't want to run. The sky was soft with gold by the time they finished the bench. Lena ran her hand over the wood, still rough in some places but strong, shaped, real. She smiled at Eli, sweat on his brow, dust on his hands. Not bad for a day's work, she said. He nodded. You've got a good eye. She opened her mouth to say something more, something she didn't yet have the words for, but then a sound shattered the calm. A distant hum. Oh, mechanical. Eli turned. You hear that? It grew louder, unmistakable now. A roar. Engines. Lena stood slowly, eyes wide, her stomach tightening. No, not yet. From the tree line, a sleek white jet appeared, descending fast. It hovered low, then landed smoothly in the open field behind the cabin, its wheels kicking up snow and ice like a storm of its own. Eli stepped back, stunned. What the hell is that? She didn't answer. Men in dark coats stepped out, moving toward the cabin with calculated precision. Lena? He asked. What's going on? I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. He looked betrayed. You called them? I had to. But I didn't want it to end like. You lied. No, she said, stepping forward. I just Postpone the truth. One of the men reached them. Miss Vale. It's time. She looked back at Eli. Please don't hate me. I don't, he said, voice low. But I don't know who you are. Then she turned, walked toward the jet, the sound of engines rising behind her like a curtain falling on a dream. And just like that, she was gone. Eli didn't move for a long time. Not even after the jet lifted off and vanished into the clouds. When he finally stepped back into the cabin, it felt smaller, colder. Her cup still sat on the counter. The flannel shirt she wore lay folded on the chair. He picked up the unfinished bench and carried it to the shed. He dropped it to the floor, grabbed a sledgehammer, and paused. But he didn't swing. Instead, he sat down beside it and stared. The next morning, he went about life like nothing had happened. Chopped wood. Checked on the broken fence. Cooked breakfast and let it grow cold. Days passed. No call. No message. No Lena. The town buzzed with rumors. The runaway bride had been found. Rumors of a jet. A cabin in the woods. But Eli ignored them. Until Claire, Lena's assistant, appeared at his door 5 days later. She wore city clothes, clearly uncomfortable in the snow. I'm sorry to come unannounced, she said, but Lena asked me to give you this. She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Eli, I never told you thank you. For warmth. The silence. The kindness. I never forgot what it felt like to just be seen without being used. There's something waiting for you. Use it. Build with it. I'll be watching. Lena. He turned the note over. A card was taped to the back. Access to a storage unit in town. When Eli opened it, he found it packed wall to wall with woodworking tools. Brand new. High-end. Thousands of dollars worth. Along with a folded sheet of paper. Make something. I'll come back to sit on it. Lena didn't return, not immediately. But her voice did. A week later, Eli was fixing the roof when his neighbor, Hank, ran over with a tablet. Turn it on, he said. You need to see this. A live interview streamed across the screen. Lena, hair tied back, no makeup, wearing the same flannel shirt he gave her, sat across from a famous talk show host. I wasn't kidnapped, she said, smiling. I was rescued. By someone who didn't even know who I was. Someone who didn't want anything from me. The host leaned forward. What made you run? I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I was marrying someone who saw me as an accessory. But this man, Eli Turner, he saw me as human. The host blinked. You're naming him on national television? I owe him that much, she said, her eyes glistening. He gave me something no one else could. Time. Silence. He reminded me what it really feels like. Hank whistled. You're famous now, buddy? Eli just stared at the screen, the fire inside him slowly reigniting. He turned to the half-finished bench in his shed. It was time to finish what they started. The following morning, Eli set to work. Not because he expected anything in return, but because the ache inside him needed an outlet. His hands remembered where Lena's had been. The groove she had sanded. The corner where she had nearly hit her thumb with the mallet. He finished the bench in silence. It was beautiful now. Simple, strong, made from two hearts that once tried to run. The kind of thing you didn't sell. The kind you waited on. Later that week, a truck rolled up his gravel path, tires crunching through the new snow. Eli stepped outside, wiping sawdust off his jeans, expecting a delivery error. But it wasn't a mistake. 2 men in coveralls stepped out and opened the truck's rear doors. Inside, a fully equipped portable workshop. Planers, routers, lathes. Every tool he'd ever dreamed of. Top of the line. He stood stunned. There was no note this time, only a branded ribbon tied to the cabinet door and a small brass plate mounted to the inside frame of the bench he'd finished. For the man who builds what money can't buy. Eli swallowed hard and ran his hand across the smooth grain. She hadn't just left him a gift. She left a reason. It was nearly a month before he saw her again. The snow had melted, the air turning crisp with the scent of early spring. Eli was outside, varnishing the bench beneath the porch eaves, when he saw a figure walking up the road. Not a car. No jet. Just boots. Jeans. Wind-blown hair and a soft smile. She walked like someone coming home. He stood slowly. You're late. She stopped in front of him, breath fogging in the air. I had to make sure I was ready to stay. He said nothing. Just looked at her like the storm had never ended, like maybe it had just gone quiet long enough for her to find her way back. I watched the interview, he said. I meant every word. I saw the gift. I meant that too. He nodded. You still running? She stepped closer. Only toward the things that matter now. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was full. Full of everything they had left unsaid but no longer needed to explain. I finished the bench, he said. I saw. I saved you a spot. She smiled. You think there's still room for me here? I never put up a gate. They sat side by side on the bench they built together, looking out at the trees. It wasn't a grand reunion. No dramatic music. No big speech. Just two people who had found each other when they were both trying to disappear. You look different, he said. I feel different. They sat in silence for a while, watching the wind shift through the branches. I don't know what happens next, Lena admitted. Me neither, Eli said. But we've got wood. We've got hands. We've got time. She turned toward him, her smile quiet but fierce. That's all I ever really wanted. He looked at her, steady and honest. Then maybe we should build something real this time. Pause. Then her hand slid into his. Fingers laced. No hesitation. No maybes, she said. Let's begin. As the last of the frost melted and birdsong returned to the trees, Eli Turner and Lena Vale sat on their bench, two broken souls no longer running, finally still. It wasn't just a seat. It was the start of something permanent.